There are really two main parts to any WordPress site: your theme and the plugins. Together they make your site uniquely yours. In our last video, we took a look at how to choose a multilingual theme. In this one, we're going to take a look at how to choose multilingual plugins. In some ways, the process is quite similar. In other ways, it's different because with a theme, you really only have one. With plugins, you have many, and they are translated in sometimes different ways. Let's take a look at some of our options here. First, we're going to look at free plugins, and these are almost always going to come from WordPress.org. Fortunately, WordPress does a wonderful job of managing the translation of these plugins. So let me show you how to find out if a plugin that you're looking at is well translated. First, we go to translate.wordpress.org. Then we come down here and we pick a language. I'll pick Polish. Now this page is for WordPress core, but right here is a link to plugins. Now these are plugins that have been translated into Polish, and it shows the progress. But this progress meter can be a little deceptive. Let's click on the project and then choose Stable Latest Release. Every plugin has this option. Now when we get to this page for the translation of stable, at the top you'll see a path for projects, plugins, and then the plugin name. Let's click the plugin name and we get this wonderful chart which shows us the percentage of translation in any given language. Now the only column that's really important is stable. Development can be important, and the readmes are very rarely important. So as you can see, Easy Digital Downloads is 99% translated for English Canada, 100% for Spanish, French, and 2 other Englishes, but 99 for Dutch, 90 for Japanese, 89 for Italian. So you may recall on the front of the page it said 21% translated. That's because we have all of these other languages, like Greenlandic, which are not very well translated at all. So the key here is to find the languages that matter to you most and to see if it's translated for them. Spanish, French, English, and Dutch and Japanese are pretty good. Italian and German are right up there as well. Now before I move on to commercial plugins, I'd like to point out that anyone who wants to in the whole world can create a free account on this site and start translating plugins, all the plugins, any of the plugins. So if there's a plugin that's important to you and it has poor support for a specific language you need, you can log in and either translate it yourself or hire someone to do it. Now the next thing I want to talk about is commercial plugins, because they don't have the benefit of this wonderful translation interface, and they can vary in how they handle it. Gravity Forms is a plugin that is commercial only. There is no free version. So anytime you come across a plugin like that, you should look under Support and then Documentation. Right here, under Support Resources, it says Language Translations. And there's this whole page about how to get the different translations for the plugin. Not only that, but Gravity Forms has many add-ons itself, and those are also translated. There are some external translations available, made by other people, and then there's information on how to translate it yourself if you need a language that isn't listed. Another example is Restrict Content Pro. If we go to Support and then Documentation, we can search here. And right there, it says, can I translate Restrict Content Pro into my language? And it says that it's already in these languages, although some may be incomplete. But then it also goes on to say how to make your own, so that if the language you need is not supported, you can easily add it. Any good commercial plugin is going to have documentation like this, so my recommendation is always to look at the documentation. Let's review real quick. For free plugins, visit translate.wordpress.org and choose a language and then plugins. Click the Translate Project button and click on Stable. and then at the top of the page, click the name of the plugin. Look for the languages that are important to you and check for percentage complete. And remember, if the language important to you is not very complete, you're completely enabled to add that translation yourself. For commercial plugins, almost always check the documentation. Look for lists of languages supported, and then look for documentation on how to make new translations. Very rarely will a commercial plugin refuse translations if you choose to offer them back. And it's not uncommon for commercial plugins to offer free licenses to people who contribute code or translations back to the core. In a pinch, if you don't find anything in documentation, simply ask. Send an email to the author. 9 times out of 10, they'll be happy to tell you the status of translations with their plugin. In our next video, we'll provide an introduction to WPML, or WordPress Multilingual.